Hi there guys, it's Carlos here at Carlos Coaching Corner once again. Thanks for watching my video. Guys, I was just working on something here very detailed about coaching. I've had a couple of requests from coaches out there saying why players fail to learn the right things at the right time. So that's a good question, because that's one thing that I work very hard into motivating young players to get to the highest level ever. But what I find is, this is something that obviously players develop differently, okay? And I've made obviously some notes on your emails here. Players develop very differently. And some players we find that develop technically but not physical. Some develop physical but not technical. Some players develop physical and tactically but not technical. Some players develop psychological more than physical, and vice versa. And then you can have some players that develop on all fours or fives, if you like, all four corners and five corners. Some people put the social corner there as well. So you've got your technical, tactical, physical, psychological and social corner there. You basically, they develop in all these corners. However, they tend to kind of develop on all the corners, but so slow, where by the time they're 16 years of age, they're still developing what they should have developed when they're 10. So sometimes they miss the boat, if that makes any sense. But all I can say to you guys is, when it comes to the guys, why they're not learning the things at the right times, really the right things at the right times, the main thing is to basically making sure that the player understands what they're learning, and the coaches and the managers and the academies that are teaching these kids is teaching the right things that basically are going to go on to develop these players to the highest level. Now, I think there's amazing people out there, and I've seen some amazing coaches and managers out there, and academies out there, and there's some amazing players being developed, and there's no two ways about it. But there's more and more players now not developing to the degree they should, based on not gathering the right information. Now, I find a lot of the times this is not just the fault of, I mean, some people can say, oh, it's the coaches or the managers or the clubs. I think a lot of the times it's to do with the players. I think some players as well find it like they get cocooned with all this sort of, and don't take me wrong, when I was young myself, but they get cocooned with this sort of like, you know, they see Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, and then they all of a sudden, there's a stage in their career where they want to be like them, which is brilliant, okay? But what they do, they get sucked up into this sort of, oh, did you see that trick? And they will, anytime they get the ball, they'll try to do something. And don't take me wrong, I mean, I'm all for watch things like that and seeing people expressing themselves the way they want, and I'm sure you guys see them on the videos that I do. I love that sort of stuff. But the biggest problem is if a kid that, I mean, I've played with players like that where they've seen something and they every time they get the ball they're trying to do that particular thing, if it's a trick or a pass, or, and don't take me wrong, I mean, it's fantastic, but not all the time. So they almost try to become someone that they're not, rather than being themselves and creating the best version they can become for themselves, rather than copying someone else. And that's one of the things that is very important. And players sometimes lose the right, or lose the tempo or the boat, or miss the boat that they should be on, do you know what I'm saying, in order for the age they've got, if that makes any sense. And because they're so cocooned with this sort of like, they get immersed with all this sort of like ability of some players out there, which is sometimes goes against them. Do you see what I mean? So I think that's one of them. Obviously, other thing is obviously players' understanding of what they need to improve on. I'm so onto this, and this is something that you guys may be able to help me. You may say to a player, or as a coach, oh, can you drop there? Make sure you drop. But a lot of players, they don't understand that. And you might say, Carlos, what do you mean you don't understand that? The interpretation of these some players, what they understand from you saying to drop off, they, one, don't know when to do it, how to do it, where to go to. And drop may mean 2 meters, it may mean 10 meters, it's interpretation. And this is what I think, I'm massive on language, and you might think, what do you mean, on NLP sort of skills. For the guys who don't know what that is, it's a neuro-linguistic programming. I'm almost in how to actually spell that. But it's basically, it's something that is so important, the way you say things. And what I find with my players, I always, when I tell them something, and obviously coming from Pushmo sometimes, I always double check whether they understood what I said. because of obviously my accent. But I always say, what do you understand from what I just said? Not in every single sentence, obviously, but in a lot of detail, sort of, especially in tactical ability and in tactical sort of sessions, because they need to understand that what I'm trying to teach. Because you just thinking, oh yeah, he understood that. Honestly, that's your opinion, because a lot of times it goes over. Whether it's a basic stuff, whether it's very complicated. For some people, complicated things might be better than actually simple stuff. They switch off on simple stuff a lot of the times. So that's very important for you to obviously sometimes double check. Now, the other thing is obviously that some players obviously struggle with is methodologies. And some of you guys might say, what is methodology? I don't even know what that is. What it is basically is the ethos. And some players never probably seen one. You know, some players have seen it, but they struggle. So if they say, for instance, develop very well physically in the team, in the first team, and sort of like, if you like, the academy plays very much a different kind of football that is not physical, that kind of player tends to kind of like struggle to adapt, and the coaches struggle to coach that particular player, or they struggle to adapt that player to what they want to do, and all of a sudden that player might be even very good, but doesn't adapt, and it doesn't sink into what their plans are. And then almost like, if you like, his own ability is almost like broken to a degree, because he might be physical, but good for teams that play physical and direct, but not so good for teams that want to play proper. And when I say proper, I mean through the thirds and really express themselves. So that's one thing that obviously you need to think about. Now, the other thing that obviously is very, very important is obviously the build-up of what these players tend to obviously understand from the innovative football. So football has developed so fast that a lot, even coaches and managers, this is why I work so hard to keep up with sort of like the technology and the way coaching is going in nowadays. What you find is a lot of players don't keep up with the new trends of football and how players and managers and coaches trying to play the innovative football. Football now, I hope I'm trying to, make sense when I say this, is football's developed so much now. When you play against a good team, they will do things statically that you're probably not even aware of, okay? It's not sort of so evident to the eye. But if you understand about this sort of stuff I'm talking about, for instance, it's very evident to people that know that they will do things on the triggers that will be very hard for someone that doesn't know about to sort of like identify it. Now, some players are so far away from that and so far away from understanding that, and even if they get exposed to that kind of coaching or training, they so almost like switched off from it, or they're not even interested, where they'll miss the boat. So by the time, for that kind of player, by the time he wants to get into the first team, he's missed the boat. So he's never going to get there. So it's going to be pretty hard. And don't take me wrong, I mean, this is a shame, because I've had a lot of emails from you guys saying that, I've had one from a guy called John. He said, I've got a kid in my academy, he's absolutely phenomenal on the ball, but I'm very upset the fact that he can't get into the team because he has got other things that affect him to get into the team. And he says he's obviously under 16s and he'd be a big sort of promise for the first team. Now, I'm sure you guys all out there have got stories about players you've seen and players that you think that can get into academies. And I always say, sometimes like a senior player needs time. Sometimes these young kids also need time. But what we tend to do as coaches, and I'll tell you, this is something that I'm sure you guys will probably agree with me or disagree with me, it's a bit controversial, is I think with youth team players, they need even longer time than a senior player, but we tend to give more time to a senior player to adapt to a team or to a country or to a system rather than a youth team player. I'll give you an example. I've seen a player the other day where he was 17 years of age, he hasn't scored for 5 games, and the manager said he's not good enough, right? I think he's very good enough, and I think he's a very good player. But then on the other side, we had a player that played for 12 games and never scored either, and he was a lot older, okay? So you know, sometimes, don't take it wrong, obviously it swings around about, but I find sometimes, obviously, players that have been in the game for a long time need time, but so players that have been in the game a little time need time too. Does that make sense? So this is not me just protecting the youth team players, because I'm very protective over the youth team players, because I love seeing kids coming through the academies and you know, and making it, because it's the future at the end of the day. And for me, I think that's how the way it should go. You know, you plant the seeds and you get you know, a bit of a small tree, then you get a big tree, then you start getting lots of fruits, and then eventually you start planting more trees and you get lots of trees eventually. And that's what I'm coming from. But I think this is something that needs another video. So I'm gonna go into, obviously, as you can see, this video is quite relaxed, and I love doing these videos for you guys, and help me and yourselves to become great coaches and great motivators for the future football, because it can only get better. This game is amazing, so we coaches need to work hard to make it better. And make it not just better, make better players, and that's why I'm here. Okay, until next time, guys. It's Carlos here at Carlos Coaching Corner. Please do not hesitate to send me an email. You'll see the email very shortly, and basically just get in contact and just share your ideas. Okay, I'm a very humble guy, as I said, and I love learning with you guys. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye now.